All right, let's talk about one of the most important books ever written in the Western world, Saint Augustine's Confessions. It's this wild mix of a prayer, a memoir, and a philosophical deep dive, and it literally changed how we think about ourselves. Right from the opening line, Augustine just nails the whole point of the book. He's basically saying we all have this ache, this restlessness inside of us, and it's a universal human search for meaning, for peace, for something bigger than ourselves. And get this, the Confessions, written way back between 397 and 400 AD, is pretty much considered the very first autobiography ever. That's a huge deal, because before Augustine, nobody had ever written about their own inner life with such raw, brutal honesty. What you're looking at here is a real piece of history. The book itself is this epic, 13-part spiritual journey. He takes us through his youth, a youth he wasn't exactly proud of, and traces this long, messy path to his famous conversion to Christianity. But to really get the Confessions, you have to see his early life as more than just a list of bad deeds. It was a search, a really relentless one. He was desperately hunting for truth and peace. He was just, well, looking in all the wrong places. And there's this one story from the book that honestly sums it all up perfectly. As a teenager, he and his buddies stole a bunch of pears from a neighbor's tree. Sounds like typical teenage stuff, right? Well, that's the question that just ate at him for years. He wasn't even hungry. In fact, he says he had way better pears at his own house. He did it just for the thrill of doing something he knew was wrong. And that realization, that he loved the sin itself, really shook him to his core. And his search wasn't just moral, it was a full-blown intellectual quest. He became this hotshot expert in rhetoric, but it felt empty. Then he got really into Manichaeism, this religion that saw the world as a big fight between good and evil. But eventually, its logic fell apart for him. Finally, he got into Neoplatonism, a Greek philosophy that got him closer to the idea of one God. But something was still missing. And all of this searching and all of this turmoil leads us to the moment, the absolute climax of his story, where everything just snaps into place. So how does a soul in turmoil find peace? That was the question that was literally tearing him apart. Imagine this. He's in his early 30s, sitting in a garden in Milan, and he's just a wreck. He's intellectually convinced by Christianity, but he just can't bring himself to commit. He feels totally trapped by his own desires. And this painting captures that scene perfectly. He's weeping under a fig tree, completely at the end of his rope, when all of a sudden he hears what sounds like a kid singing from a house nearby. And the voice just keeps repeating these two little Latin words, tolle lege, take up and read. Now, in that moment, he doesn't think it's just some kid. He believes it's a divine command, a message meant directly for him. So he races back to his friend, grabs a book of St. Paul's letters, and just flips it open to a random page. And the words he reads speak so directly to his struggles with lust and worldly things that, boom, in an instant, all the doubt just vanishes. The fight was over. He was baptized not long after that. Okay, so he's converted. Amazing story. But why write it all down? And why on earth call it Confessions? Well, that title is the key to the whole thing. See, for Augustine, the word confession had two meanings. On the one hand, yeah, it's a confession of sin, admitting all your flaws and mistakes. But just as important, it's also a confession of faith, basically praising God and shouting from the rooftops about his grace. The book is doing both of those things at the exact same time. And you can totally see this two-part mission in how the book is put together. The first 9 books are that autobiography we've been talking about. But then the book takes this incredible turn. The last few books become this super deep philosophical meditation on huge ideas, like memory, time, and the story of creation. So you might be thinking, okay, interesting old book, but no. The impact of the Confessions is almost impossible to overstate. This isn't just some historical document. It's a book that launched entire fields of thought. I mean, its influence is just staggering. For starters, it basically invented the autobiography as we know it, that intimate psychological self-portrait. It became an absolute cornerstone of Christian theology. And his ideas on time and memory? Philosophers have been chewing on those for over 1,000 years. And this isn't just ancient history. We're talking about the biggest names in 20th century philosophy. Ludwig Wittgenstein called it possibly the most serious book ever written. I mean, come on. Heidegger, Husserl, Kierkegaard, all these giants were still wrestling with the very same questions Augustine put on the page 1,600 years ago. And that kind of leaves us with this final question. In an age where we're all busy creating these perfect, curated online versions of ourselves, Augustine's radical honesty feels more relevant than ever. His journey is this powerful reminder that the search for who we are, the struggle with our past, and that deep restlessness in our hearts, that's not new. That's just part of being human.